Hi, it's Colleen. A fun and unique way to use your flowers is to stamp them in black ink over a colorful background. You'll see all the beautiful details in your flowers, and the background will give the flowers the color that they need. Now, here's an example of what I mean. I created that beautiful background that we will create today, and I stamped this flower over the top of it in black ink, and that's all I did. I did not add any more color to the flower. It's a really simple and a very effective technique you could use. For today's card, we're going to use Sweet Surprise Set. This is new from Rubbernecker, and it is a layered stamp set. Rubbernecker is really known for their layered stamp sets. They do a great job with them. So you get several sunflowers, and again, they are layered, some leaves, and then some very pretty sentiments that go very nicely with this stamp set. We're also going to use this inside scallop frame die, just the largest die, because I always like to frame out my card panel with a little bit of black behind it. It's a really effective tool to use. We're also going to need the leaf stencil for some layering. We're going to need a water bottle, spray water bottle for the technique for our colorful background, and watercolor paper, and then of course our color fuse inks in whatever colors you choose to use. So this is everything we're going to need. Go grab your supplies and let's make a card. So the first step is to take Beachside, which is a very light color in the Color Fuse family, and I'm adding it to my glass medium mat. And then I'm going to take my water bottle and spray right over the ink to get it saturated. And then I will take my watercolor paper and go right over that inked up area, and the watercolor paper will pull up the ink, and I'll get a really cool distressed mixed media-ish type of background. Now, I'm not going to cover up the entire card panel. I'm deliberately leaving some of it white because I think I'm trying to get a bit of a mixed media distress style. So I want this to look a little bit sloppy, I guess you could call it, but I actually think it's quite beautiful. Then I go in with my heat tool after each layer and I heat dry it because that sets the color and keeps it nice and vibrant before I add the next layer of color. So this layer is done, and now I'm going to go in with the next darker color, which is called Whisper, and I'm going to repeat the same process. Now I don't want to cover up the beach side, so I'm just going in a little bit with Whisper to cover up certain areas. And then I'm going to heat set that and go in with my third color here, which is called Dreamer. Continuing to build color. I love how this background is starting to come together and look. I think it looks really pretty, and it will be the perfect backdrop for my flowers when I stamp them. And then finally, I'm going in with Autumn. Now, Autumn is a yellow color, but yellow and blue works well together. And yellow gives it just a kind of a pop of color, especially because the flowers are going to be stamped in black. So I really wanted that pop of color besides the blue. And I really am happy with how that turned out. So now that my beautiful background panel is done, I'm going to go in with a leaf stencil and just add a little bit more interest to it by inking over it with Beachside. I really don't want a distinct stencil look. I want it to be quite subtle. I think these are the little details that when you add to your card, make your card go from average to wow. So all these little details like stenciling over the background panel, they make a big difference. So I'm just checking every once in a while to see if I've got enough color behind the stencil, and then once I'm done, I will finish with that, and then I will go on to the next step, which is to stamp my flowers in the black ink. So we've got a really good start here with a really festive, fun card panel. Now it's time to do the stamping, but first I wanted to show you how Rubbernecker includes this beautiful layering guide with their layered stamps, and they show you how you can layer your stamps, and they also give you some color fuse suggestions that you can use with your stamps, which I think is really helpful. So I'm trying to decide which of the stamps I want to use because I'm only using one of each layer. So I decided to use the outline, and I'm going to start stamping that, and I'm going to create a background using only one layer of each flower. And that's what I love about working with layered stamp sets, is there's so many options with them. You can use all the layers or just use one layer. Get creative with it. So I have to stamp it a few times because it's a watercolor cardstock, and it takes a little bit longer to get that ink to set on the watercolor cardstock. So I'm going in with my second flower now, and I'm continuing to build my background. And now I'm going in with the smallest one and doing the same thing. And then after I do the flowers, I will go in and add some leaves and kind of fill in some of the open areas on my card panel. And then my background, my card panel will be finished. So here's the finished product. I went back in and stamped the center of each of the flowers with one of the darker shades in my Color Fuse inks, because I thought that would add a little pop. And then I trimmed down the card panel and placed it on top of that black card panel that I showed you from earlier from that die set. See how pretty that looks? I added my sentiments, which is "You are an amazing friend," and then I put some silver string behind it just for a little interest. And this card panel, this card is finished. I'm so glad you joined me today, and I hope you got some really good ideas to use with your flower cards. Everything that I've used here today will be in the description box. Bye!